Vitamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadotam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivashati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan Ki Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. So today we are going to start discussing on the 7th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The chapter is titled The Son of Drona Punished. Starting from this chapter, pretty much till the end of first canto, we'll be discussing about the birth and activities of Parikshit Maharaj, as well as the background in which the whole pastime of birth of Parikshit Maharaj came to be. So, son of Drona, his name is Asvatthama. Dronacharya was the guru of the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Dronacharya had a son. His name was Asvatthama. To set a context here, in the previous chapter, we saw Narada Muni speaking about the glories of Bhakti Yoga by giving his own life as an example and instructs Vyasadeva to write a literature, a Vedic literature that will exclusively and wholly glorify the mercy and the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. After giving him the final instruction, Narada Muni departs, and then Vyasadeva starts to meditate on the instruction of his spiritual master, which is Narada Muni. He sips the water and sits on the banks of river Saraswati in a place called Samyaprasha, and he sits in meditation, meditating on how to write this literature, because to write a literature of 18,000 verses, not just the size, but the profound content that he is supposed to write, takes a lot of meditation, a lot of contemplation in order to present it in a way that will be understandable for the masses of people. So when Vyasadeva sits in meditation, at that time he had a vision in his meditation, vision of the Supreme Lord who is not alone, Supreme Lord being served by none other than Maya Devi, or the personification of material energy, Durga Devi. She meditates and she is serving the Supreme Lord as his maidservant. So this is the vision he sees. He also sees the plight of the conditioned souls in his vision as well. So in that deep meditation, Vyasadeva saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the personification of material energy, which is Durga Devi, as well as he could see the difficulties or the miseries of the conditioned souls. There are beautiful verses in this chapter that describes about this particular episode. Bhakti yogena manasi samyag pranihite amale. When Vyasadeva sits in meditation, his mind is not wandering here and there. First he sips water, purifies himself, and when he sits in meditation, his mind is Bhakti yogena manasi. Manasi means here refers to mind. Mind is fixed in Bhakti yoga completely. Samyak pranihite amale. Without any tinge of material desire, without any tinge of distraction. He is focused solely and wholly with his mind fixed in Bhakti Yoga. He is focused solely and wholly on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. At that time, apashyad purusham purnam mayam chayat tad apashrayam, it's given. At that time, apashyad means to see. Apashyat purusham purnam. He saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Apashyat purusham purnam mayam cha tad apashrayam. He also saw Maya Devi tad apashrayam, under the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or under the full control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maya dakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetunanena kauntaya jagat viparivartate. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that this material world is directly created and maintained and annihilated. Maya dakshena prakriti. Under my direction, material energy is doing, or under my direction, Maya Devi is doing all of this. Maya dakshena prakriti suyate sa characharam. So she is creating and destroying under his order. So when Vyasadeva sits in meditation, Bhakti yogena manasi samyag pranihite amale apashyat purusham purnam mayam chatadapashrayam. At that time, when his mind fixed in Bhakti yoga, without any kind of distraction with material desires, at that time he saw apashyat purusham purnam. He saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, mayam chatadapashrayam. Also, along with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he saw Maya Devi under his full control. Prabhupada writes that many times people, when they produce some nuclear bomb, some atom bomb, there's always this fear that at any point of time there can be a huge world war and everyone will use nuclear bomb and the whole world will be destroyed. Prabhupada says this thought is just very childish, because this world can be created, can be destroyed only under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maya dakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. Humans can't destroy, Prabhupada says. We don't have the power. This is just so tiny. Even if somebody drops an atom bomb, nothing will happen. For some time, there won't be any vegetation. Over a period of time, nature will take over anyway. So, humans are not endowed with anything that can completely destroy, nor they can completely create. So, we have to understand our position, and whether we voluntarily accept or if we don't voluntarily accept, Krishna will anyway prove about his supremacy at some point throughout the experiences that we go through in our lives. So we don't control, we can't create anything, nor can we annihilate anything. So Prabhupada says that fear of somebody will drop a bomb or the whole world will actually be destroyed, Prabhupada says that's just a childish thought. It never happens, it will never come to be. If the world has to be created, it should be based on the order of Krishna. If the world has to be destroyed also, it has to be based on the order of Krishna. So in this vision, when he sees the Supreme Lord as well as Maya, he meditates on that vision. And when he is in Samadhi, meditating on that vision, he is now also seeing the effect of Maya Devi. Yaya sammohito jiva. It is due to her influence, the jiva or the humans, they are put under sammohito, under material illusion. And what is that illusion? He continues to meditate. He sees, when he meditates on that, he sees the illusion to think this body to be one's own self. That illusion is brought about by the influence of Maya Devi on the jivas. And because of that one single mistake, because of that one single illusory conviction, the whole progress of civilization gets derailed completely. Rather than going in spiritual platform, keeping spiritual goal as one's life's foremost guiding light, one gets shifted away from that spiritual goal and goes towards material civilization. Prabhupada says in Vedic times there is no divorce. Why? Panchasa urdhvam vanam vrajet. Anyway, when somebody comes to 50, they will go to forest. What's the point in divorce? So Prabhupada says, Vedic time, everyone was very, very clear about the goal of life. The goal of life is to develop Krishna Prema and go back to the spiritual world. And because of that, everyone understood whatever phase of life that we are in is simply to prepare oneself to the next phase, and ultimately to go back to Godhead. And because of that, lifestyle was very simple. There was a time for dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Even those who are not pure devotees, even they were very clear that I have to get liberated from this place. So everyone understood the life that we experience is simply a soul, spirit soul, that we are going through human experience. And it has gone through animal experience, bird experience, worm experience, so on and so forth in the past, and now it is going through human experience. But in this human experience, if we put a little effort to understand about the purpose of life, to contemplate deep, then we can liberate ourselves and go back to the spiritual world, to be with Krishna, never to take birth again. So because this fundamental principle was very deeply ingrained in the heart of everyone, male, female, youngsters, old people, their goal of life was very, very simple. And because of that, they didn't go through so much material problems that we go through these days. These days, there is confusion, there is identity crisis, there is so much envy, so much war is going on. Because of that, yaya sammohito jiva, that one single illusion which Maya Devi creates. So only one single effort she had to do, but the effect of that goes for perpetuity. She simply had to make matter to be spiritual, matter to look real, that's all. Even though she is totally under the control of the Supreme Lord, because she is Durga Devi, this is her fort. Durga means fort. And in material world, which is a prison, when a jiva comes, the jiva had to go through a certain experience. In order to facilitate that, Durga Devi creates all these illusory manifestations here. And that is enough to confuse the jiva or the human being whenever they are actually born, at whichever point they are born. Yaya sammohito jiva atmanam trigunatmakam. Atmanam means what kind of illusion is she putting? She makes one mistake, atmanam trigunatmakam. She makes one mistake, the material body to be one's own self. Atmanam trigunatmakam. Whatever that is the product of the three modes of material nature, the jiva starts to mistake that to be one's own self. Yaya sammohito jiva atmanam trigunatmakam. Paropi manute anartham. Even though the spirit soul is actually beyond this material energy. Despite it being separate from the material energy, still Atmanam Trigunatmakam. It is mistaking the material manifestation to be one's own self. Tatkritam cha tabipatyate. Because of that understanding, it pulls itself from acting with the spiritual goal or spiritual purpose in life. It goes down. Tatkritam cha vipadyate. It assumes everything matter is actually real and it just acts on that platform. Yaya sammohito jiva. Atmanam tri gunatmakam. Paropi manute anartham. Tatkritam cha vipadyate. Because of her illusion or her influence, a jiva is put under illusion, mistaking the body to be real, despite being separate or superior to that material energy. Tatkritam chabipadyate. It acts as if it is material body. And if we look around in today's world, literally every problem comes down to this fundamental mistake which jiva does because of the influence of Maya. It's like all of us have experience deriving an equation. Could be in physics, could be in mathematics, chemistry. If we make a mistake in the very first step of deriving an equation, no matter how many further steps we take, we can take 50 more steps. Every other step will be wrong. And needless to say, the final conclusion also will be wrong. So if we have to really understand why am I not getting the result, I have to trace back to the root cause of the problem. And if we want to pinpoint one single problem, which is the cause of all troubles that's going on in this world, yaya sammohito jiva. That illusion. Atmanam trigunatmakam. Mistaking one's body to be real. Or conversely, not understanding one to be a spirit soul. It is for this reason when Arjuna was bewildered in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and when he tells to Krishna very convincing moral arguments why he wouldn't fight, at that point of time, Krishna starts his instruction to Arjuna by giving Atma Vidya. You are not the body, you are the soul. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. This body may be destroyed, but the soul will never be destroyed. And Krishna speaks almost like 18 verses, convincing Arjuna from different point of view why he's not the body but spirit soul. Krishna cuts to the chase and goes to the root cause of the problem. So whenever we find any problem in our lives, we have to understand that the solution cannot be in the material platform. The solution cannot be in the same platform. It has to go down one level deep. Even if we take our body also, Indriyani paranyahur, indriyabhyo param manaha, manasastu paro buddhi, yo buddhe parasastu sa. If we have problem with our body, there is only so much we can address on the same platform of body. I'll give you an example. Let us say we have some ailment. My knee has got a problem, let's say. So now we can go to a physiotherapist, we can go to a doctor, we can do whatever diagnosis we have to go through. And we go through a treatment process also. Almost always, treatment won't be 100% perfect. It's hard in material world to get anything perfect is difficult. Let's say you get 90% cured. What about the remaining 10%? It'll always be niggling. Now, unless we go down little bit deeper from that physical bodily platform to a mental platform, we can't find the solution to this problem. What do I mean by that? We can now, after taking everything, spending thousands of dollars, getting the best doctors, and they did whatever that is possible scientifically to fix it, and now we are settled with the 90% solution. The remaining 10% you can't get in the same level. If you have to get the whole 100%, that remaining 10% of the solution will come from mental level, one level deeper than the physical level, which is, now you will start to convince yourself, well, is there anything better that I could have done? I went to the best doctor, I spent whatever money that was needed, I did whatever the treatment process demanded of me. Despite doing all this, I am 90% cured. Okay, fine. Now, unless you go through that thought process in your mind, there is no complete solution for this. It will always remain incomplete. There is only 90% you can actually cure, but the remaining 10% you cured using your mind. Now, sometimes mind may go through trouble. Somebody said something to me. Somebody called me an idiot. Somebody said that I'm not good for nothing. Now mind is disturbed. To find a solution for the mind now, the more you think, more mind will actually go crazy. You can't control it. So now how will you find solution? For physical, when it happens, whatever that was lacking on the physical level, we found that solution at the mental level. Now when problem comes at the mental level, you can't solve the problem at the mental level. You have to go more deeper, which is Indriyani Paranyahur, Indriyabhyo Param Manaha. Higher than the body is the senses. Indriyani means the senses. Indriyani Paranyahur, Indriyabhyo Param Manaha. Higher than the body is senses. Higher than the senses is mind. Higher than mind is intelligence. Manasastu paro buddhi. Buddhi means intelligence. So when body has trouble, we found a solution, whatever that was lacking, despite the physical treatment, at the mental level. When mind goes through trouble, we can't find solution at the mental level. You have to dig deep, go a bit more to the next platform, which is Manasastu paro buddhi. We need to go to intellect. We need to go to our intelligence. And now we sit and think, okay, that person had actually told me that I'm not good at it. So what? That's his opinion. This is our intelligence thinking. Just because he said it doesn't mean I have to accept his definition of me as truth. I will define myself. So when mind goes through trouble, we find a solution at the intellect level. Manasastu paro buddhi, yo buddhe parasastu sa. When intelligence goes through trouble, yo buddhe parasastu sa, then one has to go to spiritual solution. In this way, we can analyze any problem that we have will have its ultimate solution, not at the mental level, because mind also can go through trouble. Not at the intellect level, because intellect also can go through trouble. For every thought, for every analysis, there will be a counter thought. For every thesis, there is an antithesis. As soon as a thought is born, there is a counter thought that's also born along with that. This is a world of duality. As soon as somebody takes a conservative stance, there is always going to be a liberal counter thought that's going to come, or vice versa. There is no one single absolute solution for anything. Initially, everyone was living in their own local community. Traveling at that time was time consuming. So then they thought about having a vehicle. Okay, started with the bullock cart. And then they thought the bullock cart is actually going slow. Then they went to machines, automobiles. Automobiles solved the speed problem, but it introduced pollution problem. It introduced global warming, as they say. These days, for everything, global warming is actually blamed. So it does makes the whole place hot. It does cause a lot of noise pollution. It does cause a lot of air pollution. So there was one problem that was there, which is transportation, for which there is a solution that was found, but the solution is not an absolute solution. Solution introduces another problem. So materially, we can never find one absolute solution. Absolute is a word that's used in the spiritual context only, in its true sense. So in this way, if we analyze, we can see it's not possible for us to find a solution on the platform where the problem is happening. We have to go deep. Now, what about when you go to spiritual level? Can there be a problem at spiritual level? Impossible. Every solution, every problem stops as soon as we find a spiritual solution. Any problem in this world, Prabhupada would always say that. You can read a small book called Hare Krishna Challenge. It's based on Prabhupada's conversations on different topics, morning conversations, morning walks. And there you can see it has like a good anthology of different topics which Prabhupada's disciples ask, and Prabhupada gives spiritual solutions to each one of those problems. So unless we find the root cause of the problem and find a solution at the spiritual level, no problem can be solved in this world. Why? Yaya sammohito jiva atmanam trigunatmakam. Because of this problem, when one thinks, I am this body, there is border problem between two countries. Because of this narrow understanding that I am this body, humans have abused this whole ecosystem, thinking that the whole world is created only for us. There are 8.4 million species. Humans are only 400,000 species in that. There is 8 million species. There will be more number of worms that live in your home than the entire humanity, which is like about 8 billion. We are the minority here. But because we think we are this body, we completely miss the point that we are spirit souls. We look down upon every other creature, and that causes a lot of trouble. It disturbs the ecosystem, which eventually comes and bites back on humans. Even though temporarily it doesn't look like, temporarily people may not realize, or even if they do, they don't care about. So it's very, very important that we understand this fundamental point. Very first step in the equation, we made a mistake. And because of that, every other step that we take will be problem prone. If we have to fix the situation, we have to go to the root cause of the problem. Problem at physical level, mental level, intellectual level cannot be resolved at the same level. The problems that happen at all these different levels can be resolved only when we go to the root cause, only when we go to the spiritual level. Atmanam tri gunatmakam paropi manute anartham tatkritam chabipadyate. So this is the vision of Vyasadeva. He sees apashyat purusham purnam. He saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mayam cha tadapashram. He also saw Maya Devi under the full control of that Supreme Lord. Yaya sammohito jiva. He also saw, when he had the vision of Maya Devi, he also saw the illusion that she puts all the jivas under. So this is what he sees. Firstly, he defines the problem this way. Now he comes to the solution. After seeing all this, now he is thinking, okay, this is how Maya works. This is where jivas, they fall short in their intelligence. So now I will write a literature simply by reading which any jiva in this world can come out of this influence of Maya Devi and take shelter of Krishna. Anarthopasamam sakshat bhakti yogam adoksaje lokas ajanato vidvams chakre satvata samhitam. Because they take anarthas. Artha means that which has value. Anartha means no value. Ego is considered as an anartha, no value. Impurities, no value. Impurities have got only one value, which is they need to be get rid of. That's the only purpose. That's the only engagement we can have with them. Anarthopasamam sakshat bhakti yogam adoksaje. When Vyasadeva meditated, at that time he concludes the living beings, because of being put under the illusion of Maya Devi, they can be purified. They can easily come beyond the influence of these complexities of material miseries simply by taking shelter of Bhakti Yoga. Anarthopasamam sakshat Bhakti Yogam adoksaje. Adoksaja is another name of Krishna. Adoksaja means one who cannot be approached by our senses. So it's no wonder atheists, they get confused. Show me God. By definition, they cannot understand God unless they take shelter of Krishna or Krishna's pure devotees. Krishna won't reveal himself to them. That's one of Krishna's name, Adoksaja. It's not a flaw, it's a feature. Krishna holds back the privilege of seeing him to those who are proud, to those who are jealous, to those who are not humble, to those who are non-submissive. Anarthopasamam sakshat bhakti yoga adoksaje. Simply by practicing bhakti yoga and worshipping Adoksaja, the Supreme Lord, humans can easily come out of this complexities of material miseries. Lokasya ajanato vidvams. Vidvams means to know. Ajanato means not knowing. Because lokasya, loka is the general mass of people. Ajanato vidvams, because they don't have this knowledge of Bhakti Yoga. Chakre Satvata Samhitam. He wrote Satvata. Satvata means for pure devotees. Satvata Samhitam. He wrote the greatest of all the Vedic literature called Srimad Bhagavatam to educate the general mass of people so they can take shelter of Bhakti Yoga in the worship of the Supreme Lord, who is also known as Adoksaja. Chakre Satvata Samhitam. With this purpose in mind, he wrote this Paramahamsa Samhita or Satvata Samhita or Bhagavata Puran, Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is how he is first defining the problem and then now he is concluding. Okay, so this is the problem which the jivas go through. Now I'll write a literature that will expound the glories of Bhakti Yoga. Simply by reading it, one will raise oneself above the complexities of material miseries. Yasyam vai shruyamananam. Yasyam vai shruyamananam Krishne Paramapurushe. Simply by shruyamananam means simply by hearing this. Yasyam vai shruyamanayam. Krishne Paramapurushe. Simply by giving oral reception to this literature, Krishne Parama Purushe. One will develop bhakti towards the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. Bhaktir utpadyate pumsa. Shoka moha bhayapaha. Yasyam vaishruyamanayam Krishne Parama Purushe Bhakti udpadyate pumsa. Shoka moha bhayapaha. He says, I will write this literature simply by giving an oral reception of which will develop bhakti utpadyate, will make bhakti sprout from within the heart of the listener. So they will become a devotee of Krishna Parama Purusha. They will become the devotee of the Supreme Lord Krishna, and because of that, three things will go away from their heart. Shoka, moha, bhaya, apaha. Apaha is to get extinguished. Shoka, lamentation. Moha, illusion. Bhaya, fear. Shoka, moha, bhayapaha. If we take our lives, most of the time, almost all the time, we live either in the past or in the future. But actually what we have is only present. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says the only asset we have is the present. But unfortunately, because of lack of that understanding, proper understanding, we live either in the past or in the future almost all the time. We worry about the missed opportunities of the past. We worry about a potential repeat of the past misery again in our lives. We worry about things we missed. So we live based on contemplations of the past. Past contemplations. Or we live in future imaginations. We sit and think, make plan. We sit and worry about some things may go wrong in future also. Both are anarthas. Artha means that which has value, anartha means that which has no value. Sitting and worrying about what happened in the past, how is that solving the current problem? So it's an anartha. Sitting and worrying about what could potentially happen and we don't know whether it will happen. 9 out of 10 times it never happens. It's anartha again. But in the course of contemplating the past, in the course of worrying about the future, we miss what we have in hand, which is the current moment. So everything we lose. Present always keeps going, ticking. Second after second, minute after minute, day after day, it just keeps going. Slips through our hands, slips through our fingers, right under our nose. But we won't be present. If we are thinking, worrying about the past or the future, our whole life will go just in that mode. It's important that we make plans to live, no doubt about it. Generally, if you look at a very normal or a typical man who had, or a woman who had just graduated out of uni, the goal will be to find a job, and after that to buy a home, to marry, to have a family, and at some point during that whole process to buy a home, and then we pay mortgage for rest of our lives. This is not a great achievement. This is good, but this in and alone it's not a great achievement for humans. Because birds do this, animals do this, all other species do till this point. Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maitunam cha. Samanya method, Pashubir Naranam. Eating, sleeping, mating and defending. These 4 activities are common for both Pashubir, Samanyam. Samanyam means same. Samanyam. Etad. All these 4. Pashubir Naranam. This is same. All these 4 are same for both Pashu and Nara, for animals and humans. So to have a home, to have a job, to have a means for eating, to have a means for some security, they're all good and they are needed. But this achievement alone is not sufficient. Because as humans, our potential is so much more. There is so many good things we can do. There are so many infinite possibilities we can achieve when our soul goes through this human experience. But if we don't take advantage of that, and if we are simply stuck with just a life of maintenance, we would be living inside human body, but we won't have full human experience. Because the same fear which animals have, our whole life will go experiencing the same experience of animals, but inside human's body. Animals may be worried, where will I get the food? They may be a little worried, where can I actually sleep? Too much disturbance in this part of the forest. So once we secure our position for the needs of human life, which is eating, sleeping, mating, defending, once that is secured, now we have to look beyond. Okay, now I have secured, I have got a family, I have got a means of living, I have a certain income, okay, some passive income, I have a home, that will go on autopilot mode. As long as I work, I'll keep paying the mortgage, fine. Now this is secured. Now we have to go to the real purpose of human form of life. But if we think we have established all this and then I'll just nicely keep on maintaining this, then we are underutilizing. It's like paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a beautiful, highly efficient vehicle and then use that throughout the whole life just to drive in 20-kilometer zone. You don't need, for that you can even walk. Jesus Christ says that this whole human life is like crossing a bridge. Don't make big plans to build a home in the bridge. What's the purpose of the bridge? You just cross. Like that human form of life, it's just a bridge to go from animal life all the way back to the spiritual world. But if we think we make permanent plans, I'll always remain as human, and we keep on making plans, what will happen is we will lead a life in human body but not go through the full human experience. We will live in human body but we'll simply be satisfied with the achievements which animals actually do. We will live in human body but without fully realizing its potential. That's the illusion which Maya Devi puts us in. But what does reading Bhagavatam do? Anarthopasamam sakshad bhakti yoga madoksaje lokasya ajanato vidvams chakre satvata samhitam yasyam vaishruyamanayam krishne paramapurushe bhakti udbhadyate pumsa shoka moha bhayapaha. Shoka will go, lamentation will go, moha, illusion will go, fear also will go. Why? By reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we will go deeper and realize that we are humans. We have so much more infinite possibilities. We have so much more achievements that we can do. And by practicing Bhakti Yoga and connecting with Lord Krishna by this process of Bhakti Yoga, we become immune to the material miseries and we live happy. We give up shoka, moha and bhaya, and most important, we will develop love for Krishna. So in this way, Vyasadeva resolves, this is the literature I'm going to write. A literature that will bring about a revolution in this world. A literature which, if someone takes the shelter, will at once be able to give up their lamentation, illusion and fear, and bhakti utpadyate. Their heart will be very fertile and receptive to have the creeper of bhakti grow towards the lotus feet of Lord Adoksaja. So this is the conclusion of his meditation. So this is how Suta Goswami starts to narrate. And after resolving this purpose, Vyasadeva sits and writes. After writing, if you read the verse carefully, it's given that he went through this. He wrote a work, just like we may write a letter. Before sending it to someone, we may go through. Like that, Vyasadeva first he wrote, then he went through and he made adjustments. Bhagavatam says that. That's how careful he was. So he didn't do this work in haste. He didn't finish this, throw it away and run away. No. He wrote this, then he went through that fully, and as he was going through this again, he made adjustments to make it more relatable, to make it more accessible for general mass of people. And after doing that, he taught his son, Shukadeva Goswami, about the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. So when Suta Goswami, Ugrashrava Suta or Romaharshana Suta, when he says that Vyasadeva taught this great magnum opus to his son, Shukadeva Goswami, at that point, Shaunaka Rishi, who is the head of all the sages of Naimisharanya, he asks a question. Shukadeva Goswami was a Paramahamsa even before birth. Shukadeva Goswami was a spiritual personality. He didn't even bother to cover his body. He didn't even distinguish who is a male and a female. In the prime of youth, he just traveled, wandering around home to home. Api go dohanam kochit. He stayed in every home only as long as it took to milk a cow, and during that time he will enlighten the people, move to the next home. He was the first door-to-door preacher. He is already in Paramahamsa platform. If people who are already in material miseries, they can hear about the Supreme Lord, they will get immune. But Shukadeva Goswami is already beyond material miseries. So, Shaunaka Rishi, his question is, he's already in transcendental platform, why was he interested in Srimad Bhagavatam? That's a reasonable question. If I have a headache, I'll go take Panadol. If somebody is feeling normal, why should they take Panadol? So when he asks this question, at that time, Suta Goswami recites this famous Atmaram verse, the verse that's been immortalized in the heart of all the Vaishnavas. This verse is so important. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives more than 50 meanings on this particular verse. Initially, he speaks to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and that news spread like wildfire. And later on, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meets Sanatana Goswami requests him, can you please repeat what you told to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu repeats it again. Atmaramascha munayo nirgranta api urukrame kurvanti ahaitu kim bhaktim ittam bhuta gunoharihi. Supreme Lord's pastimes, Supreme Lord's qualities, they are so attractive, not just for people who are suffering. Atmaramascha munayo, they are attractive even to Atmaramas. Atmarama means, Rama means pleasure, Atmarama means one who is self-sufficient, one who is not dependent on anyone. Like great jnanis, they won't have food, nobody will glorify them, they are not bothered. They just sit in one place, happily just reading Vedanta. There may be yogis who may just sit in the forest. Nobody is there to take any instructions from them. They are not interested to attract masses of people. They are just on by themselves. Atmaramascha munayo nirgranta api urukrame kurvanti ahaitu kim bhaktim ittam bhuta gunohari. So this work of Srimad Bhagavatam is attractive for everyone, not just for people who are suffering, but for everyone. Whether they are in the platform of karma yogis or jnanis, yogis or atmaramas. So setting the background this way, Sutta Goswami now starts to narrate about the appearance and the glories of Parikshit Maharaj. At the end of Kurukshetra war, almost everyone in both the sides of the army, Kauravas and Pandavas, they were killed and annihilated. And as with the tradition, after winning a war, the winning party is supposed to stay on the battleground for one night. So Krishna asks all the Pandavas to stay in the battleground of Kurukshetra. And the Pandavas' 5 sons, which they had through Draupadi, they were all sleeping in the camp. At night time, Asvatthama, he uses a boon he had received from Lord Shiva, and he goes and killing all 5 of them, thinking that they are all Pandavas. He beheads them, carries their head to Duryodhana, whose thigh was already broken, and he was on his, literally in his dying moments. So when Duryodhana sees the head, he presses their head of the 5 boys, which he had carried on a bag, and he says, "This head looks very soft, this cannot be that of Pandavas. You have brought so much bad name for me. Even Duryodhana didn't approve of the heinous crime." So he rejects it. Meanwhile, the Pandavas, along with Krishna, they return back to the camp to be welcomed by the crying and wailing of the members of the Pandavas' camp. And when they come to know about the 5 sons they were killed when they were asleep in a very adharmic way, they become very sad. And Draupadi, she cries unconsolably. Arjuna then takes a vow, and he says, whoever had caused this heinous crime, I will kill him and I will bring his head to you, O Draupadi, and you can stand on his head and take bath. Taking this vow, Arjuna mounts on the chariot driven by Krishna. When Asvatthama comes to know that Krishna and Arjuna are after him, he had already seen them. What havoc they could create, or they created on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Asvatthama becomes scared to death, and he realizes he stands no chance, especially when they are on pursuit of him for a heinous crime which he had committed against their family. So Asvatthama runs, and out of fear, he uses Brahmastra. Brahmastra was a weapon which is used not by mere mortals, it is used at the time of destruction, it is used by higher beings. He had learned the mantras for Brahmastra. Even though he had learned how to hurl Brahmastra, he didn't learn the other half, how to retract his back. Confucius says this, a little learning is a dangerous thing. So as Krishna and Arjuna, they are pursuing Asvatthama, at that time suddenly Arjuna sees this. Knowing the cause of that, he turns towards Krishna and then he says to him. We'll continue in our next session. Last class we had some questions which I couldn't answer due to lack of time. I'll first start answering that. If you have any more questions, you can type. Jai Prakash Prabhu. Does Narada Muni is considered in Dasya Rasa or Santa Rasa? Narada Muni is considered in Dasya Rasa. Narada Muni epitomizes the sadhana siddha bhakti. Narada Muni attained his perfection through staunch sadhana. Like that, you can attain siddhi. Scriptures say in like 3 different ways. Sadhana siddha, kripa siddha and nitya siddha it's given. Nitya siddha means those devotees like ragatmika bhaktas who are always in the spiritual world, who never fall down. Like Arjuna, like Uddhava. They're all there with Krishna all the time. They're all called nitya siddhas. Sadhana siddhas are those who fell down like us, but they attained their perfection by strict sadhana. Narada Muni epitomizes that. And Kripa Siddha are those who attained perfection by mercy. They also put their effort, but they also are very greatly aided by the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Ajamila is a good example for that. Narada Muni, he serves Krishna in different moods. There's a place in Vrindavan known as Narada Kund. Narada, when he goes to Vrindavan, he is actually taken by the gopis. They ask him to take bath in a kunda. He goes inside and comes out as Naradi Gopi. So Narada Muni serves Krishna in different capacities. Simmi Mittal, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, how do we take the occasional feeling of separation from Krishna positively? In spiritual platform, there is no thing called separation. When Prabhupada visited Mayapur, after coming to the West, establishing ISKCON, he is going back to Mayapur after a long time. At that time, Prabhupada went straight to ISKCON temple. So some of Prabhupada's god brothers, they criticized, saying Prabhupada didn't pay respects to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He is coming to Mayapur after a long time. He should have met his guru first before going to ISKCON temple. When the message came to Prabhupada, Prabhupada laughed it off and said, when was the time when I was separated from my guru? I am always with my guru. So if you read the concluding passages of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada reveals a tiny little glimpse of his mood there. So there Prabhupada says, when we sit and chant the holy name of the Lord, the Supreme Lord along with the entire parampara is there. Prabhupada reveals it like that. So, positively, Prabhupada says, when one disciple asked, so Prabhupada, when we chant Hare Krishna, what should be the mood? Prabhupada has given different answers. One place, Prabhupada says, you feel the presence of Krishna when you chant. So, separation from Krishna is only happening on a physical level, if at all there is. But Krishna is always with us. Abhinnatvam nama namino. Krishna and Krishna's name are not different. So when we chant Krishna's name, this is Krishna. So we don't need to project our material understanding on Krishna. Only if I see Krishna with my two eyes, will I agree that I am with Krishna. It's not like that. Krishna is everywhere, and we can associate with Krishna by practicing one of the 9 different processes of bhakti, either 1, 2 or all of them. So in that way, we can always stay connected to Krishna. Chirag Prabhu, when Supreme Personality wants the jivas to go back to him, then why the material Maya energy is created by Supreme Lord himself to entrap these jivas? Good question. We are in this material world based on our choice. Wrong choice, but based on our choice. The love can be experienced only when it is voluntary. Nobody can force anyone to love them. It's not possible. I always give this example. Imagine there is an husband and wife, and the husband tells the wife or wife tells the husband, you know what, I actually didn't want to marry you, but I married you because of my financial situation. Do you think when the other person hears that, they'll feel happy? Definitely not. What they would have loved to hear is, you know what? I married you because I loved you. That is something they would have loved to hear. But the moment we put a material reason, because of this reason is why I actually married you, then the love won't be relishable anymore. We are mere mortals. Even for mortals, we want our love to be selfless, correct? Unconditional. Krishna is Supreme Lord. Why is something which is rejectable even for mere mortals like us should be relishable for Krishna? Krishna wants us unconditionally, means Krishna doesn't want us to go to him just because we want money, just because we want some help from him. They are all fine. But Krishna wants us to choose him because we love Krishna for what he is. The Brajabasis are the topmost devotees because they don't know that he is God. Can you imagine? They do all this without knowing that he is God. That is something. When forest fire is engulfing all the gopas, description is given, the fire was going from the ground all the way to the sky. It was a wall, huge wall. And we are scared. Gopas are also scared. And guess what Krishna tells them? Close your eyes. They had so much trust in Krishna, they just closed their eyes. And Krishna just swallowed all the fire. Will we do that? We won't. And now they did this without knowing Krishna is God. We won't do this even after knowing that Krishna is God. That's the difference. So Krishna wants us to love him, not for any conditions or anything like that. Now coming to your question, why is Maya Devi stopping us? There are different ways how we can answer the question. One way is, well, she's like the examiner. When you have exams, you'll always have an invigilator who is there looking around, proctor, making sure that you're not copying the answers, making sure that you are following all the rules. The purpose of the examiner is to ensure that all good candidates pass and all bad candidates fail. So Maya Devi, she is like the examiner here. And all of us are here. She wants to make sure only the pure devotees escape back to spiritual world. And not those who don't do any effort, who just picks, who remains lazy. She makes sure that they are all here. In other words, if one practices bhakti, one will easily go past beyond Maya. Daiviyeshu gunamayi mama maya duradyaya mam eva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. This divine energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. I always say this, when Krishna says something is difficult, it got to be difficult. How often have you heard Krishna using this word difficult? Duradyaya. Very few places you will come across. Gahana, Krishna uses the word regarding karma. Difficult. Few places. All other places Krishna uses Tasyaham Sulabha Partha. It's very easy Partha, like that he says. So, to go past Maya, Krishna is saying Mayam etam tarantite. Mam evaye prapadyante. One who prapadyante means to surrender. One who surrenders to Krishna, Mayam etam tarantite, can go past beyond Maya. So the only way to go past Maya, the only way to pass the exam which Maya keeps is by taking shelter of Krishna. So that way, Maya ensures that only those who deserve to go back to spiritual world will go. And how can they go? By taking shelter of Krishna. Then they can go. So this is her thankless task. We'll stop here. Next week, we are having the Vyasa Puja of His Holiness Devamrit Swami Maharaj. Those of you who are in Sydney, please take this opportunity to attend. We rarely get a chance to... I see one other question. I'll come to that. So we rarely get chance to attend Vyasa Puja face to face. So whenever we get opportunity, it's coming. The opportunity is there in Sydney. So please take advantage of that. The details for the Vyasa Puja ceremony, you will find that in our media, Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, website, iskon.com.au. So you can register. Registration is mandatory. Register and then you can come and attend. So next week we won't have the class. And the Saturday after that, I'm going to Alice Springs for 2-3 preaching program there. So next 2 Saturdays we won't have the class. We will continue the week after. So after 2 weeks, the 3rd Saturday from now, we will resume from where we are finishing. There is a couple more questions I have here. Nabendu. Just like we miss to live in the present worrying about future, can one not argue what is the point worrying about next lifetime? That's a very good point. Can one not worry about next lifetime? It's not about worrying about next lifetime. It's about finding a permanent solution to all this problem. There are some things we do to satisfy the immediate needs, but there are some things we do in life to go to a permanent position from where we don't need to worry at all. So if I give you the option, should you save money or should you spend money for your meal today, or should you save money for your post-retirement life? Which one should you do? You would say, this is important, that is also important. But if I tell you, is this more important or that is more important? You say like, no, I need both. That's the answer to your question. Living in the present is important because that's where we can enjoy every single moment. Past is not going to give us enjoyment. Future also won't give us enjoyment. Only thing we have valuable is just present. Simply if we live in the present and do what is needed at the present, naturally our next lifetime will be taken care. Otherwise, playing devil's advocate, if I go with your argument, okay, if I should not worry about the future, I should not worry about the past, why should I worry about next lifetime? Okay, so then what do you say? I'll continue to worry about future? That's not a good argument, because it's still a worry anyway. Or according to your argument, should I sit and worry about what happened in the past? That's also anartha. How is that gonna make my life any better than what it is now? So only thing I have in my hand, which I can control, which I can manipulate, which I can put to good use so that I can be happy in this moment. As well as simply by being in the current moment and working at the current moment, living in the present moment, it's also gonna guarantee my future life. That's the best deal. Because there's no worry in this case at all. It keeps me happy right now. How can I actually say it keeps me happy right now? Because I don't worry about the past and future, which means I'm living in the moment. If you carefully observe the pain that we experience in life, doesn't happen now. 99.9999% of the time, the pain we go through is not caused at the present moment. It is caused either in the past or it is caused based on future imagination. So simply by getting rid of past and future and focusing my life just in the present moment, simply by doing that, I become almost 100% immune to material miseries. And even better, by doing that, I also guarantee my next life to go back to spiritual world. Okay, so forget about future. Forget about even, let's go with your argument. Let's not worry about even future lifetime. At least let's worry about my happiness now, which means I live in the present moment. For that, worry about past and future. You simply focus on the present moment, Krishna will take care of your next life. Okay, but indirectly what you are doing by living in the present moment, putting it to good use, practicing it in bhakti is, in addition to what you are doing now, your future life is being guaranteed. Prabhupada said to Mr. Sheth, who helped build apartments for devotees to live in Juhu in the beginning days. At that time, Prabhupada tells him, for every brick you actually place on the wall to build this home for my disciples, Krishna is putting one brick to your home in spiritual world. So we can understand that with every moment, if we stay in the present, with every activity that we do now, Krishna is automatically doing something there for us. That's not based on worry. It comes for free. If you don't want, then leave it. But simply living in the present moment, future is being automatically created there. Okay. Srikant Sena Prabhu, how do we understand Shukadeva Goswami has been initially attracted to impersonal feature? Was that because of his father's emphasis on Vedas, not include glories of Krishna? No. There are many instances where devotees, Shukadeva Goswami as such, he is a parrot, personal parrot of Srimati Radharani. So there is no question of him being a Brahmavadi. This is part of the pastime. So when Arjuna, such a great warrior, Savyasachi, ambidextrous, he can shoot arrows from both the hands. Somebody who had single-handedly defeated the entire Kuru clan, single-handedly defeated Nivata Kavachas, single-handedly went for a combat with Lord Shiva himself. Who will dare to fight with Lord Shiva one-to-one? Ravana defeated. Ravana attempted. Lord Shiva actually defeated him just by pressing his right toe, it's given. But Arjuna, he goes all the way to Mahavishnu Loka. Who has done any of this? A man with such a big profile and achievements, he is saying, I won't fight. And now Krishna speaks something and then he says, okay, I'll fight. Now suddenly everyone's curiosity will be aroused. Why did Arjuna say he won't fight? And then what did Krishna tell him so that he changed his mind to fight? What is it that Krishna said? Naturally, people's attraction will be drawn towards reading Bhagavad Gita. Same way, Shukadeva Goswami, he is a pure devotee, Nitya Siddha. He is personal pet parrot of Srimati Radharani in spiritual world. He appeared here as a Brahmavadi initially. It's the same parallel you can see even for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Initially, he was a master in Nyaya philosophy. He was not preaching about bhakti. And then after Ishwara Puri gives him Diksha, that's when he started to reveal his mission. So you can take it like that here. Initially, Shukadeva Goswami was a Brahmavadi. And then he hears about Krishna's glories, especially the verse that glorified about Krishna's mercy. Aho Bhakiyam Stanakala Kutam. How Krishna delivered Putana, elevating her to the position of his mother. Putana, who is a Kechaki, who is a child-eating demoness, who came to actually kill him, sparing her breasts with poison. If this is the mercy Krishna gives to somebody who came to kill him, to a child-eating demoness, how much will he actually give to somebody who takes his bhakti? So when he hears that, he then starts to reveal his appreciation for Krishna, and then he becomes a pure devotee. Quote unquote. He was always a pure devotee, but he's playing that role, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu played the role of Nyaya philosopher, waiting for the time he meets Ishwara Puri, for him to reveal the mission. So that's how we see it. Shravanti Mataji, there are 4 lakh human species. How do I understand this? Please, can you give some examples? Good question. Prabhupada says in one morning walk, if you study biology, you come across nomenclature, vertebrates, invertebrates, mollusca. You will come across, those which has backbone, those with no backbone, those which has shell outward shells, so on and so forth. So the categorization of the species in modern science, I think they found and identified up to 2 million so far. Plants, animals, reptiles, birds, altogether. That's how much they have. So the classification here is done based on morphology, which is structure, physiology, based on how they look. In Vedic categorization, where it's given 8.4 million species, Jalaja Navalakshani, Stavara Laksha Vimshati, that famous verse in Padma Puran. Here, the species are categorized based not on their form and structure, but instead based on consciousness. Which means humans have 400,000 different types of consciousness. That's all. Even our type of consciousness is limited. We think, every human is different. No. Narada Muni clearly challenges this. Even the dreams that we see. You read Bhagavatam, Narada Muni actually says, humans don't have the capacity to see or to think even something in their imagination outside of what they have experienced in the past. Now you think really? So even whatever that comes from our imagination, so-called imagination, whatever that comes even in our dreams, Narada Muni says, that means you have experienced something. You may have some combinations, but he says humans don't have the capacity to think something beyond their experience. We saw this when Narada boy was going everywhere. At that time he saw mining. Prabhupada actually, they were doing mining even in those days for valuable materials and everything. And Prabhupada there he writes, in modern day time, in the name of archaeology, they waste so much time digging. What's there to see? There's nothing new. Whatever we are doing now, this is what people did in the past. So don't waste your time digging the ground. So Prabhupada says, this whole attraction towards like history. We want to know what happened in the past. Prabhupada says is just repeat news. Just hang around for some time, you will see the same thing again. It's a repeat movie only, material world. So humans also, they are divided based on different consciousness. Prabhupada says ghosts, they are also classified under humans. Demigods, classified under humans. Demons, classified under humans. What differentiates each one of them? Consciousness. Like that we see. So this 400,000 species may be there in the world that we live in. It also includes the people in higher planets, lower planets, everything. Ghosts, hobgoblins, pishashas, pretas, devatas, rakshasas, everyone. So each one of them, they are categorized not based on the form and structure. This 8.4 million species is based on types of consciousness. Some of them, they may have the same. For example, there are 8 billion humans now in the planet, let's say. So among us, we may fill in probably a 4 lakh, 1 lakh species there. I'm just giving a ballpark figure. But the point is that the 400,000 or 4 lakh species, it spans across all the 14 planetary systems, including subtle entities, everyone. That's how Prabhupada explains. It's in a morning walk. You can find, I'll see if I can find that. I had it somewhere in the folio. I can share the link. Let me see. But Prabhupada explains that in one morning walk when the same question was asked to him. Okay, we'll stop here. So next 2 weeks we won't have a class. We'll continue on the 3rd week. And next week, those of you who are in Sydney or even interested, if you like to come, you're welcome to come to Sydney. And we are going to celebrate His Holiness Devamraj Swami Maharaj's Vyasa Puja festival. Maharaj will be personal.